Hello, everyone. So, I just finished watching the new Spider Man Far From Home trailer for the 20th time, and it's time I focus back on Godzilla month. This video, though, is going to be different. It's going to be talking about monsters that have shared movies with Godzilla, but we're talking about their own separate origin films. I'm talking about Rodan and Mothra, two monsters that have actually become allies of Godzilla over the years. But though their origin stories are a little bit different from one another and unique to them, respectively. So we've got 5 rounds of this sucker. Let's dive right in. Round 1 will be the story. Story of Rodan is that some miners in a mountain start experiencing some deaths and some cave incidences while in the mines, which reveals a couple of large creatures, which ultimately leads to the reveal of the giant monster himself, Rodan. Basically, a giant pterodactyl starts flying around Japan, and of course, this causes the Japanese military to step in. Then we have Mothra. A ship sinks at sea, but some survivors end up on an island that was previously thought to be uninhabitable, although still pretty radioactive. And according to the survivors, there is life on the island, which causes a couple of people working for the government, as well as a very shady entrepreneur, to check things out on the island. They come across the two fairies of Mothra, and once the entrepreneur starts exploring the two fairies, Mothra herself finally shows up to try to fight back. So in both these stories are a little bit different because the first incidences of giant monster attacks in Rodan isn't actually Rodan himself, but are actually some pretty small creatures, comparatively speaking. Of course, in this film, he is a little bit more of an antagonistic monster, so that is similar to Godzilla's origin story in a way. But for Mothra, she's actually kind of like the hero. Yeah, she does some city destruction and such, but the only reason she's doing that is because the real antagonist is a human character who takes the servants of Mothra's fairies, away and traps them and exploits them for personal gain. So that is a little bit of an interesting take on a monster creature. And so far, from what I can tell, Mothra is the one Japanese kaiju that has consistently been shown as a hero creature over and over again. So this round goes to Mothra. Let's go on to round 2, supporting cast. Warning, I do not remember the names of any of the human characters from either of these films, but they still leave some sort of impact based on the story at hand. We've got miners and some scientists trying to figure out what's going on in the mines and trying to figure out what Rodan is. And you've got a couple of reporter characters trying to figure out what's on the island, trying to fight back against the entrepreneur that's doing some shady stuff, and ultimately tries to help the fairies and Mothra try to win the day. Although, like I said, they haven't really left that big of an impact, obviously, if I can't remember their names. But that's sort of part of the course for these kinds of films, with only really, really great human characters ever leaving a huge impact. But I do remember the characters of Mothra a little bit more because they were a little bit more likable and a little bit more interesting. So with that, I give this one to Mothra as well. Now let's go on to round 3. Action. There really isn't that much action in Mothra. I mean, of course, you got Mothra herself doing some stuff, flying around, big, huge winds, which is similar to what we see for a good chunk in Rodan. But of course, we got some more interesting action sequences that include some of the smaller, giant worm-like creatures that Rodan feeds on that can fit inside certain houses, actually, and makes some unique action scenes in the giant monster film. And of course, at the end of Rodan, you got this giant lava volcano scene that's kind of fun to watch. Mothra, it's really a bit more about building the mythology behind the giant monster herself, which isn't bad, but giant monster films, there is a certain expectation for when it comes to action, which unfortunately Rodan just fills out a little bit more. So this round goes to Rodan. Let's move on to round 4, Atmosphere. Rodan's atmosphere can be similar to other more traditional kaiju films, with Mothra's being a little bit more unique to her, but there is something a little bit more different in each one. Mothra's portrayed as the hero monster, which could be a little bit difficult for some audience members to swallow considering past Godzilla, King Kong, and other monster films. With Rodan, it's a little bit more into the mold, which in some respects can hurt that film a little bit, but there is a bit of a more interesting part of it that similar to the original Godzilla film of them trying to scientifically figure out what exactly Rodan is. It's simple, but I think it is a little bit more interesting trying to figure out the creature of Rodan itself from a more historical perspective slightly, which I think is slightly more interesting in that certain respect. Long story short, I think this round goes to Rodan as well. 2-2 tie, let's go on to round 5. The monster itself. Rodan is a giant pterodactyl creature, and there's actually 2 of them in this film. But Rodan is a giant pterodactyl that goes around the city, just being what it does best. Mothra it's technically a moth, yes, but physically, from a physical standpoint, it does look a little bit more like a butterfly. It's a very beautiful looking creature, Mothra. Rodan is generally what you expect Rodan to look like. It's cool, but Mothra's style is certainly more unique. And the whole aspect of her being more heroic and guardian protector monster instead of the more going around destroying everything creature does add a unique level or layer to Mothra, as opposed to Rodan. Yeah, I'm going to give this one to Mothra. I think you could tell that I was always going to lean towards Mothra in this face-off, but I think Mothra is the better monster film compared to Rodan. I just think Mothra is a really unique and interesting monster that should have more movies made about her. Anyway, that's all I have for this video. Like, comment, subscribe, share, and I'll see you guys next time.